Have you heard the saying that a family reunion without genealogy is just a picnic? Well, it is a true statement. And that means that you, genealogists, you are the center of the family reunion. They couldn't have it without you, right? They couldn't check the box. Check, we had a family reunion. And so, how do you even get involved? Well, you will believe it or not, Jim and Michael, they are experts at this. But we have the experts of the experts from the Family Reunion Institute, created by Dr. Vargas while she was at Temple University. And if you know me and you know my family, we are family reunion lovers. And you know what else I love? I absolutely love whatever you do. If you love Nutter Butters and you love chocolate, whatever you do, never put them together because your life will be over. You know, remember when you got into genealogy and you got hooked? That's what's going to happen if you eat one of these Nutter Butters. All right, let me bring my buddies on. Michael's holding his head. First up, Michael holding his head, and Jim. How are you guys doing today? That's Jim Beidler, editor and columnist, and Michael John Neill.
I'm doing just
Genealogy
fine,
tip
but
of the
the
day.
Nutter Butter metaphor is not what I was expecting us to start with today. But snacks are always good. So
Do you guys
just
like
can't.
peanut butter and chocolate?
There's nothing wrong with peanut butter and chocolate. No.
I'm not fond of peanut butter, but
No peanut butters. Okay, guys. So we have, I didn't even tell them about all of the great topics we have today because I was just thinking about these Nutter Butters dipped in chocolate. So Jim and Michael, of course, came up with a very good topic called Is Your Process the Problem? Or is your problem your process? Like it could be, I got confused. I didn't know.
or lack thereof.
Or
But
lack
yes,
thereof.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was talking about family reunions. This is like my favorite family reunion shirt. You know why? Because I made it. And genealogies, you got to go beyond like the regular obligatory presentation, right? You got to really dig in. You guys really dug into your family reunions. Look at them. They're like, yeah, we did. All right. So we're going to talk about processes. That's our first quick start. Is your process, no, yeah. Is your problem your process?
Is your process the problem? Let's just see what the slide says because I'm pretty sure we got that right.
Is your process the problem? So processes, I love processes. To me, that's what makes genealogy fun, finding like different ways to do it. And so I would like to ask you guys both, you know, you've heard over your many decades, how many long you've been doing genealogy? 30, 40 years. Name your either your best or your worst process that you have been that people have shared with you.
Well, the worst one is kind of easy to say. No process at all, where you just completely fly by the seat of your pants. But I'd say not planning enough as far as what type of records you're going to look at. Background about what you know. Analyzing what you think you know before you start striking off in all sorts of directions.
How about you, Michael? What has been your best? Or Michael, I love the tree. It's beautiful. I feel outdoorsy now.
Well, it's indoors, but yeah, thank you. In a remote location today, I would say the worst thing is maybe either making huge assumptions, jumping to conclusions, or if things don't fit, assuming there was some big dramatic thing going on in your ancestor's life and avoiding the more, not trivial, but the easier possible solution for that. Sometimes people tend to jump to the overly dramatic thing, and there's really a relatively simple explanation. You're writing genealogy. You're not writing fiction for a reality show. You want to remember that.
The victim story.
Yeah, or
They
something
they
like
didn't
that.
want to count us. They didn't want to include us. And we know that stuff actually happens, but that's not a process.
Right.
There's that principle, and I can't quote it, but I know the effect of it. Occam's razor, which I think the sense of it
Never
is.
seen it. Yeah.
I think the sense of it is that a simple answer is usually the right answer.
Right. I think that's the heart of it. There's probably a lot of 5-syllable words in that description, but that's the essence of it.
That's the KISS method, I hear. Okay. So let's move on to step 1 for we can't go yet. We have people here. I forgot. See, guys, I'm a
Loads
little
of people
wacky
here.
today because I've been eating way too many Nutter Butter, so I'm a little buzzed. But make sure you tell us who you are, where you are. Let's say hello. Who's first, LaJoy Mo? I knew you were going to be first, LaJoy, because you was looking at everything. You was catching up on the shows. I knew you were going to be first. Hello. Thanks for coming from Columbia, Maryland. Hello, Angela Allen, Houston via Chicago, and Wanda Looney, Alabama, Birmingham. I got a chance to see some beautiful pictures of Dean Henry's beautiful granddaughter. It's really his twin. He's like holding his twin. He's holding himself when he was a baby. That's how much that baby looks like him. Caroline. Hi, Caroline Fair from Chicago. Hey, Judy from Chicagoland. And we have Jean Lucas Allen from Collegeville, AAGG, Og's Family Quest. This is a person who is a genealogy nuts. No, I love it. I love it. A monster. That's what my aunt used to call him. Hi, Cassie Adams from Ohio. Hi, Carol from Indianapolis. Hello, Denise Payne checking in from Amsterdam. Hey, June Hall from Ohio, Dr. Debbie's folks. Hey, Wayne and Grace Ann. Yes, Wayne and Grace Ann, White Horse Road, Magical Sweet Shop. Tell them I sent you. Hey, Barb Proctor, Las Vegas. Okay, we have Benita Gibbs from Apex, North Carolina. I don't know where Apex is. Hello. And then we have Jay Jackson from Jennifer from Chicago. Lots of Chicago here today. I have to say, when it comes to people reading my newsletter, Chicago, you guys are one of the top. So I want to thank you for reading my newsletter and coming in and saying hi. So you guys ready to get started with the quick start?
Let's do it.
We're preaching to the choir because everybody has great processes. All the people I said, they have great processes. We're just doing this for other people. All right.
Right.
So step 1 is first to understand the problem. So of course we think we understand the problem, but is there something special we need to do here?
Well, understand in terms of the way we're going to look at this today, understanding your problem is the biggest part of all of this. And there's several different aspects to it. One is to make certain you've got a fairly narrow problem about your ancestor. Not you want to know everything about great grandma, but that's a long-term goal, and that's fine. But you want to have a narrow problem. I want to know when and where she got married, who her parents were, something fairly specific about her. And then also a part of that is to understand the whole environment in which she or he was living at the time that event happened. What things were going on historically, culturally, what was the geography of the area, all that background information. And on top of that, what records were created at the time they were living that may answer the question. All the records, not just the ones that are on the interwebs, but all of them. And then in what forms can you access those, and how can you access those? There's a lot to that, and that's because if you don't really get all that, you're going to overlook something at some point.
So I wanted to add to that, because usually we say, learn about the history, do this, do that, and the other, but we don't normally say this is how you do it, right? And so, okay, Apex, North Carolina. That's where I'm researching. How do I learn about the area and the history of Apex, North Carolina? What would you suggest I do?
Well, one thing is see if there's still an active county gen website for the county that Apex is in, as well as see if there is a good family search wiki uh, entry for that county. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah,
Right. You know, and you could also look to see if there's published county histories on archive.org or the other sites, Google Books or 2 other sites that you could look at. If there's not something countywide specific, I tell people to see if there's a Facebook group or another group for that county. Then broaden it out and look statewide. There might not be a research guide to that location specifically, but there's probably one for, what was it, North Carolina? There's going to be one for North Carolina. Look at that, because a lot of the legal stuff is the same for the entire state. So a general state research guide could also be helpful as well.
So since we're talking about North Carolina, and I know we have to move on, anyone researching North Carolina, you must in your library have Helen Leary's book on researching North Carolina. And I'm going to tell you something about that Researching North Carolina book. Everybody should have it. It's not even just North Carolina. Having it helps you specifically with North Carolina, but it is a great way to understand records across the United States. So if I get a second, I'm going to run back to my study and bring it out so you guys can see it. But look it up, North Carolina, Helen Leary. All right, guys, let's move on to step 2. You guys agree. I saw you said, yep. Step 2 is to create a research plan. So, you know, I'm just doing the book wild thing and just pulling stuff. How do you create a research plan?
Well, when you've done your background, you've done your step 1 work, and you found out what records are extant and where they are and how to access those, pick one you want to access and determine how you're going to access it. You know, it may be online, it may be you have to write to the courthouse, it may be the local library has it, whatever, it's going to depend. But then keep track of what you're going to do and how you do it so you don't do it again.
You mean we don't want to look up the same thing like 3 times?
Well, you
to
can
see that they're not there.
Right, you can, but you know, you're not, if you know, it's kind of comical when somebody says, I got really excited about that, I found something and I only realized I'd found it 3 years before and already had it. You know, so it's important that you do that for a couple reasons. One, so you don't do it again umpteen bazillion times. But 2, in the later steps, you can't problem solve if you've not kept track of what you've done.
Yeah, and somewhat counterintuitively, but it'll show up in the example I submitted, is you may want to go back to some records you've already looked at, but you want to do it intentionally, not accidentally. And because well, I don't want to step on my surprise, but well, just to say that I only had one for a long time. I only had one 4th great grandfather who I did not know the parentage of. The rest of my pedigree was developed beyond that, and I unfortunately I kind of shot myself in the foot, and for a long time, because I thought I had looked at everything about him.
Okay. So we're creating, you know, we've learned about the area. We have a plan. We have some specific records that we want to look at. And some people have told me that when you create a research plan and you list your records, that you also list what you expect to find in that record. All right. Step 3, execute the plan. All right. Did you guys have, execute the plan. Did you have any records you wanted me to show yet?
I don't think so yet. When we get to we'll get to that when we go back.
All right. You guys want to talk about executing the plan, because we all do it differently?
Executing is pretty simple. I mean, you do whatever it was you decided you were going to do in step 2. You know, basically, you know, and if you And if you do anything a little different, because maybe you get in there and you search for more names than you were going to, or you think of others, whatever spellings or whatever, you do something a little different, document whatever it was you did. And, we didn't mention specifically, but if it's county records, wills, we're just going to throw out there. Are you going to the courthouse? Are you looking at them on Family Search? Are you looking for them on Ancestry? And are you looking at the indexes Ancestry made? Or are you looking at the indexes the original county had on microfilm? Whatever the specifics are, you want to indicate that, because if you used Ancestry's index, that's different from using the courthouse index or using somebody else's index. And you want to know what index or what method you use to try to get to it. So in later steps, you can say, if you find out more about the records, oh, well, I used their index and I should have done it this way, or now I know about that, I need to go back and do it again in a different way.
Yeah, and you may be, you talked about each of those separate potential indexes. Well, and you may use more than one. One of the seminal books in German genealogy is Pennsylvania German Pioneers. And it is indexed. There are no indexes without fault, but it is also a database on Ancestry. And one way I've found to not just double check but expand what I'm looking at, if I have an unusual first name that I'm of somebody that I'm researching, or maybe it's not, it's one that there's 11 different surname potential variants, I'll go and put that first name into the Ancestry database, because I can't do that in the printed Pennsylvania German Pioneers Index, because the first names are all attached to the last names, whereas in Ancestry you can just search for a first name and leave the surname blank. So
because that would require reading every page, and heaven knows we don't want to do
that. It's a long index, buddy. So
one thing we didn't talk about with creating the plan, which you kind of alluded to, is creating that list of variants and including that with the plan for the main people. And then also, you guys alluded to this, that should be a part of the plan, because we just think of the plan as just being the records I'm going to look at, but it's your full kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to say should be in there is your cluster, like the list of the people that are around them.
Yep.
As well.
Fan club. Yep.
Fan club. Yay. And look what I found. Let's see. This is the North Carolina research by none other than her. Helen, you must, it's so worth it. You have to get this book. Everybody should have this book. Just North Carolina isn't the only one who have fun. All right, let's move on to step 4. And step 4 is to evaluate and document what you found. So this is like citing your sources and more, right?
Originally, if you find something, the time to create the citation is the moment you find it. Not because we're trying to be obsessive about that, or we kind of are, but that is the easiest time to make the citation, is when you have just found the document. Because you should, in theory, know how you found it, how you got there, and that usually that's a part of your citation process. That's the ideal time to do it, and then evaluate it, read it, look at what it says, interpret it,
transcribe it.
There's nothing worse than transcribing the same document 5 times. You're like, I knew what this word was last year. I came up. Go ahead.
And I would say also make an abstract of the document, because that way you're picking out the names, you're picking out the dates, you're picking out what you think is the salient information, and then challenge yourself too. Do I have a complete abstract? Like if it's a deed, make sure you even do the witness's name, yes, not just the name of the grantor and grantee.
So one thing that I've been doing a lot of research on newspapers, one thing that you can do is do it in Microsoft Word. And when you find something and you write up your little sentence, make that footnote right then and there. Just grab that URL and pop it down there and just say newspapers.com. It could be dirty, but at least you've cited that. And when you copy and paste it, blah, blah, you guys get it. Use the tools that you have. Anything else on evaluate and document?
Nope.
All right, let's look at step 5 is rinse and repeat.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Wash, rinse, and repeat.
So because sometimes you will have solved your problem, you will have answered your question, or found something to help you answer your question. You'll kind of go back and kind of restart because you'll have other people to look for or new questions to answer or whatever. If you did not get the answer to your question, which is what happens a fair amount of the time, then you're going to go back to step 1. And in those things about all those things that we said to understand, you want to go back and look, did I overlook something? Is there something historical, geographic I'm not thinking of? Did I make an assumption about my ancestor that was not true? And one problem solving technique that we didn't mention in this kind of 4 or 5 step process is to make a list of what you think you know about your person from memory. Don't look at anything. Write down what you think you know about him or about her. And then of those things that are in your head that you think are true, see if you can, which ones you can document with a record or a source, and then see if there's others that were in your head but you have no documentation for. And those could be things that are giving you troubles because they're in your head. You may be using them when you research or look for things, but you maybe have no basis upon which to know they're true or not.
You got to keep that stuff out of your head and onto paper. I remember telling someone you need to interview your family members and get the information, and they said, I'm the oldest person. Interview yourself. Duh, you're the one that needs to leave the record. So interview yourself, I would say. Would you agree with that, guys?
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything you guys wanted to show?
Do you have the one slide that I sent?
I do. I'll
the image and the ones about something about the marriage slide. Do you have that slide?
Guardianship petition.
We can use that. There was a PowerPoint slide about the parents' marriage date.
Yeah. Let me show the petition.
We'll show the petition and we can talk about it. It's okay. It's all good. We'll talk about it. Yeah, we can just put up that image so that we've got that to.
If it didn't have a picture, Michael, I wasn't showing it.
That's okay. This was an individual, and what I really wanted to find was when and where her parents got married. And this is a guardianship petition when she was, I think, 5 years old in 1856. It's got her date and place, not place of birth, but it's got her age as of the date of this document, which allowed me to backtrack into where she was born. And what I was trying to find on Francisca was when and where her parents got married. And going through the process, my initial assumption, which wasn't bad, was that her parents got married close to where she was born. And this document doesn't say where she's born, but she's in Illinois. She's 5 years old. So I kind of thought I'm going to start with Illinois is where the parents got married. And I looked. In that county, this person, they lived in the place where Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri all meet. So I went across the river. I went across the state line. That did not work. And I went back and we talked about understanding and going back and looking at things again. I looked at this woman was dead by 1900, but her children were alive in 1900, and they claim she was born in Ohio for some reason. And she wasn't. She was born in Illinois. Everything was clear about that, except for her children in 1900. And people sometimes get things in their head for a variety of reasons. And to make it really short, the kids apparently had believed because her parents lived in Ohio for a short time, that's where mother was born. And even though the birthplace was wrong, I did a little bit of digging around, and the parents were actually married in Ohio, Cincinnati, in 1849. And then 2 years later, when they're having Francisca, they moved to Illinois. So they weren't there for very long, but that erroneous piece of information in that census
had you way off.
It had me off, but it was a clue. And when things are wrong, those, you can't be born in 4 or 5 places, obviously. But sometimes those, we kind of throw out those incorrect things as whatever. But sometimes there's clues in those incorrect pieces of information if we're willing to kind of look and think about them for a little bit. And that's what was helpful in this case.
Absolutely. So if you could throw up Friedrich Winter's will and then the German estate document, uh,
Got it.
then I can just, yeah. This was, like I say, this was my last fourth grade grandfather that I didn't know the parents of, and I felt I knew so much about the dude. Had all his children's baptisms, and him getting land and all sorts of things, but wasn't able to find where he was from in Germany until I decided to go back over my research. And one of the things was something that wasn't there. He either had a child baptized or sponsored a child in this one particular church every year except a 5-year stretch from 1768 to 1773. So that seemed real suspicious. So then when I went back over sources, I found a possibility that he actually went back to Europe when his father died to get his share of the estate. And so that led me to, if you can throw up the German document, to find reference in Germany. I wasn't able to find that he actually did come back for this. It still seems logical to me that that's what created the 5-year gap. But this did solve his parentage because his brothers are listed. This has the town name, Albersweiler, near in Germany, near France. And from that, I was able to extend the pedigree. So,
I love this one.
mm,
My thing is moving slow. I'm trying to move to the next page. Yeah, there
that's
we are.
okay. So, but like I say, the reference in it actually says about him having gone to America. It doesn't say he came back, so I'm still uncertain of that. But the main goal, that was a subsidiary goal. The main goal was prove his parents, prove where he came from in Germany, and I was able to do that.
All right. Wow. Hello. Who do we have here?
We have Winifred today.
Hey, Winifred. You want some genealogy? It's like, where's my tree? Where's my tree?
Outside. That's where her tree is at.
Do you do your pet's genealogy?
No, I do not. And we've not done any of those animal DNA tests.
Okay.
No. So,
well, guys, thank you so much. Let me share this wonderful is your process the problem. Let's see what the steps are. Step 1 is first to understand the problem. Be specific. Step 2, creating research plan. Step 3, execute your plan. Step 4 is to evaluate and document while you're doing it. And step 5 is to wash, repeat, and rinse. No, wash, rinse, and repeat. Great one. Great one. I love that one. So, guys, thank you so much. I will see you guys a little later. My fingers are slow. Okay, there you are. Bye. Hello. Let's get started for our second quick start. Like I said, a reunion without genealogy is just a picnic. And that is how I was raised at the Family Reunion Institute in Philadelphia, but travels the world. We have the daughter of the creator of the Family Reunion Institute, Suzanne Holloman. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting us here.
You are I want to have you here every week. I was trying to make an appointment so you guys could always come on. Hello. And also we have Doug Harris, also a member of the advisory board of the Family Reunion Institute. We got to see Doug's little dog in the back. I love the little dog in the swing, Doug. One day I'm coming after the pandemic, I'm coming and getting in that swing. How you guys doing? Thank you so much for being here today.
Fine. Thank you for the invitation.
And I've already had a question, and we'll get to it when someone put on, they saw that you were coming. They were like, I need to know, how do you get family members to participate? And
Oh.
so keep that in the back of your mind. And I don't know if they mean by attend, because anybody's going to come if there's food, but I'm pretty sure they mean, how do you get people to work? I'm pretty sure that's what it's all about. So before we get started with the quick start on planning a family reunion, I would love to hear. Normally, we have genealogists on and they share their 1-minute genealogy story. How did they get started, and how did they know they were hooked? So what I would love to hear from you guys is, how did you get started? Your 1 minute. How did you get started in family reunion planning, and when did you know that you were hooked?
Well, I got started, I got hooked at our first family reunion. So our homestead is in Medford, Massachusetts. Our family name is Counts. And my great-grandfather founded the neighborhood that we lived in. My grandmother's siblings, most of them lived in Medford, but my mother's generation, a few of her siblings moved out of town. When they would come home to Medford every couple of years, and it would be a great time when they came. So when we had our first family reunion, and it was the entire extended family, it was fantastic. I always say there's nothing better than spending time with family. And so that's when I got hooked. And then the second reunion, my mother was the chair, and so obviously she got her family involved with helping to plan. And since then, I've been involved with planning ever since.
Fantastic. That is so cool. A town founded by your ancestor. I have to learn more about that. Doug, how did you know? How did you get started? And how did you know you were hooked with family reunion planning?
Well, actually, it comes from guilt. In 1973, I was on a trip to Kansas, a business trip to Kansas City, and met my future wife. And the weekend after this business trip to Kansas City, my family was having its first family reunion in New Jersey. And at the end of that week, I called and said, I cannot make the reunion. I didn't explain that I had just met this wonderful woman that I'm still married to 48 years later. But anyway, after that, I felt guilt because I missed the first one. And then I was determined I wasn't going to miss any others.
I love that story. Y'all should have got married at the reunion.
We just met that week.
The next one.
Oh,
That's adorable, Doug. That is adorable. I too missed our first reunion. I got there when it was at the end, and Floyd was like, "It's over now," and he just walked away. I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I had to get a ride," but I got hooked because I just knew that Floyd was doing God's work. Like, there was nothing like the feeling of everyone there, like people who might not even really be a part or connected to the family, just being there. That day was like we were just in this space that was unlike any other space. You guys know what I'm talking about. So everyone needs to feel that. And we want to share with you how to plan your family reunion. So let's get started with planning a family reunion. And so step one, and let's try to get that off of Suzanne's neck. All right. Step one is to form a planning committee. So step one in this quick start, just like in the last one, is the most important. And this will answer, that was Karen Berry's question. How do you get people to participate? So what do you guys, how do you get started with a planning committee?
Well, with a planning committee, really with all of the advice we're going to give you today, you do what works best for your family. So you do want to absolutely form a planning committee. You cannot plan a reunion solo. If you do that, you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be upset with the family. And if you do go through with the reunion and it's successful, when you say at the second reunion, I'd like some help, everybody's going to say, well, you did such a good job.
You did wonderfully. Just don't change a thing.
Right. So you don't need any help. So do not allow yourself to do it solo or with just one other person. Gather a team around you. And you might say, well, I don't know anybody in my family. You have to know, if you know a few people in your family, they know a few other people. And they can help recommend members of the family to join your planning team. So don't let the fact that you may not be familiar with your entire extended family stop you from forming that planning committee. Now, you can be very formal with the planning committee. You can have specific positions, a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, a family historian, and then your planning team members. You can go very organized that way, or you can go informally. So you see here, these are various team roles and the names for each of those roles. And we do have on our website, familyreunioninstitute.net, a document on assembling a planning team, and it describes what each of these positions' responsibilities are. So you can go to our website and learn more about that.
So I love this, because if you are vice president, you can't just walk away. You can't just say, I don't feel like doing those. Oh, you're vice president. You know, I like this. You give people titles and then you make them part of it, right? Because we are super people. You know, we can whip stuff together, especially now with the internet. You don't have to go to the post office and everything. You can email. But what you said is so key. You make them a part of the process. And if you give titles, I would make up even some more titles, like, you know, the best potato salad maker. Because then they have to bring the potato salad. You know, we can't have a reunion without your potato salad.
You're right. But if I could add to that, I would say, when it comes to setting up your committee, one of the criteria should not be that you like that person. Everyone who comes to be a part of the team should come with some skill, some ability that makes a difference. And if there's a missing link, for instance, if nobody on your committee knows how to use a computer, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So even though you may not like the person within your family who has that skill set, make sure you involve them, because that particular skill set is just as important as making potato salad.
All righty. We got some real talk here. It's not about personalities. It's about your family. And I think that's also key about forming a committee, is to have a mission. Guys, we are here not to show we can do this. We're here to honor these folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I love it.
That's a good point, Shamele. And if you're having problems getting people on the planning committee, then keep the reunion simple. Don't make it a 5-day affair. Keep it relatively short, and give yourself plenty of time to plan the reunion, so that the people you're asking to help you don't call them 6 months in advance. We recommend, if this is the first time you're planning a reunion, start 24 months in advance.
Ooh, don't get so, Suzanne. Wait. You making my mind blow up. Okay, hold on. First, we just try to get some people to come in. Okay, you guys gonna come over. We're gonna talk about this. Okay, we formed our planning committee. You guys ready to move on to the next step?
Yes.
All right. Step 2 is to determine the name, the location, the date, and the length. And if you can get through step 2, it's almost smooth sailing, because step 2 could actually be like the end of the committee, right?
You're right.
So talk to us about how to be more efficient with this.
Well, I think one thing you need to keep in mind is that you cannot assume anything, because each of us, we have our own thoughts about what our name ought to be, where we ought to go, when it should be, and what the length of it should be. But you'll find as you get to work with your family that your family might have different priorities. And I know in my own family, our reunion is called the Harris Boyd. And at one point, we allowed the Boyd family to plan the reunion, and we changed the name of it to the Boyd Harris. And that worked for that year, and then we went back. But the whole idea was to give the Boyds ownership. We had included them, but then we needed to somehow give them ownership. Now, there were a couple of people who were a little upset about the Harris name not being first. But, these are all things that you have to consider and make sure that you're as inclusive as you can be.
Absolutely. I agree with Doug wholeheartedly. Be as inclusive as possible with the name, because issues around the family name can stop the reunion planning dead in its tracks. And you can create family angst, and then people get offended and they're not going to come, and it's not pretty. So with my family, our first reunion was Count Stugger. And we realized after the reunion that was not the appropriate name. It should have been just Counts. But we waited until the second reunion to address that issue. When everybody was there, we had a nice family discussion about it. Everybody agreed. It wasn't a problem, thank God. But you have to really be careful. So if you have to have 5 names in the name of your reunion, 5 branches of your family, then do it. It's not a problem. Better to have too many, and then over time, you can whittle it down and work on it like Doug's family did, like my family did. Maybe you call that first reunion Family Gathering 2022. You don't put any.
Yeah, if it gets too heated, if somebody invites somebody outside, or after the reunion, everything starts swelling up. After the meeting, everything starts swelling up. Then I like that. You just call it the gathering.
Right. Give it a theme. Give it some kind of theme name or something. But
how about location, date and length?
Mm-hmm. So with the location, date, and length, you'll see that one of our quick steps is to survey the family. But before you survey them, you need to give them some options. Mm-hmm. So surveys are always multiple choice. They're not open-ended. So You give them the location. Usually the location is a function of whoever is chairing the reunion, whoever that president is, or in my case, our family does not have formal titles, but whoever is taking the lead, they choose the location. And we're all fine with that because they're the ones that are ultimately responsible and doing more work than anybody else.
Exactly.
And so that's how we choose the location. We did the Family Reunion Insitute. We did survey our planners last year, and the top 3 responses on how to. There's a different slide for that.
Oh, okay.
For how to determine where to hold the reunion is at family meetings, votes, or surveys. And we'll talk about the surveys in a minute. The family reunion itself, determine it, before at the reunion, before you close the reunion and say your goodbyes, determine where to meet. Whoever volunteers, somebody can volunteer to host it in their town or where most family members reside. So those were the top 3 responses in terms of how families choose where to locate their reunion.
And you really, go ahead, Doug, I see you get ready to say something.
Right. I was going to say that one caution as you move forward, don't get stuck in terms of meeting at different locations is good for some people. Because in my family over the years, now people plan vacations around where the family reunion is going to be.
Yes.
And it's become a thing.
Yes.
You know, so you don't always want to go back to the same place, but you want to make sure that the venue and wherever you're going is going to be well received by everyone. And again, that goes back to the job of the chairman or the president is usually the one who researches venues. And even in the same location, you can have dozens of
Different
venues.
places. Yeah.
So there's a lot of research. And then not only do you have to get to the venue, you need to determine what your price is going to be. And that is a negotiation. And a lot of people don't realize that if you're bringing 50, 60, 70, 80, or 100 people to a hotel, that gives you leverage.
Oh, I like it. You big ball, and then you can say, "Well, I need a courtesy room."
Exactly.
All righty.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it'll work if you know what you like. They're not going to offer it necessarily,
Yeah.
but if you ask for it, of course they're going to give it to you.
All right. That's why you have to come and hang out with the Family Reunion Institute. So, like on that commercial, you can know what you're entitled to.
All right. Yeah.
All right. And now on the location, some families can travel. You know, some families, I love it. They go across the country, they do different things. My family, if you go outside of 25 miles from East Berlin, not West Berlin or Berlin, East Berlin, the attendance drops dramatically. So you have to think about what you want. Do you want to have a lot of people come? And cost, like Doug said, if we go over a certain amount, people are still complaining we have the same amount since like 2000. Right. Our rate has not changed. So go ahead, Doug. Those are real considerations.
No, you're right. But again, over time, perspectives change. Our first reunion, we met, our family is basically in New Jersey and Virginia. So it was either Burlington, New Jersey or Newport News, Virginia.
Okay.
One or the other. And that is when and our family reunions were picnics. But over time, they evolved into something else. And like the first time we met at some place, not a picnic, and not somebody's backyard, there was some concern, some people were, like, who's going to make a potato salad? We're way in some place else. But once they experienced being in a fun place, like we've been at Lancaster, Pennsylvania, we've met at the Poconos.
Oh, nice.
Different, and Ocean City, Maryland. And they've gotten to the point now where they're looking forward to the next location. But at the very beginning, it was exactly as you said. Everybody wanted to stay in the same place.
Doug, I love that. Evolution. So don't automatically come in and think you're going to have like the poppin' biggest, do all those things. You just start with what you have and you educate and grow.
Yes.
Okay. And it's really who's on the committee. The people on the committee, like you said, evolves. I love that. Okay, let's move on. Let me see. Wait, we have a question. Advice on hosting or planning committee in a pandemic.
Well, look at what we're doing.
Yay! Yes. Keep it going.
We are not together. We are not breathing on each other.
She says that they already have postponed the reunion, but general interest has been low, and the committee of 2 is nervous about losing money. So I would say not in person. You won't lose money. Keep it low. Do Zoom. Do something small. And then just by being together, people will say, "Oh, we need to do this again." Right?
That is true. My family had a Zoom reunion last year in the middle of the pandemic, and we actually had to do it twice because we were limited to 2 hours. And in 2 hours people get tired anyway. But then we had to do it again because people hadn't finished sharing.
Oh.
So it does work if you want it to work.
Mhm.
And
And
get more than another person. You can't just have two.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have a
Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry. If you have a virtual reunion, you still need a planning committee for that. One a number of families have done is they've been having virtual gatherings. So these are periodic gatherings in lieu of a reunion. And what it does is it keeps the family together, and it keeps the excitement high about being together, so that when you do roll back to that in-person reunion, everybody hasn't been out of touch. People have been keeping in touch. Your virtual gatherings should not be meetings. They should be fun events.
Yes.
And the great thing about virtual gatherings is young adults and young people love the whole virtual format.
And let them take over, allow them to step
Yes.
in, unloosen the reins. This is the time when we can actually start that transfer. I'm sorry, I'm slowing us down because I love family reunions. Step 3 is to gather contact information. This is key, Doug. You talked about this. This is so important. Why is gathering contacts so important?
Well, one is, one of the things that happens is after the reunion, there will be someone who said, I didn't know. Now, it's true. It may be a case of they kind of heard about it, but they didn't pursue it because they knew it was going to cost money. But still that gives them reason later to say, oh, I didn't know about it. But it makes sure that you reach out to everyone, and you can't assume that you've touched, just because you've touched all the people that you have contact with doesn't mean that you've touched or contacted everyone in the family. So it's an ongoing research process. Also, now we did a family directory 10 years ago, and I still update it by hand, although people don't need the directory so much anymore, because now we're in the age where people contact each other and store phone information on their phones. It's like we're in a different world, but still there are constant changes. So it can't be you do it once and you're done. There's constant updating and adding people, changing addresses, and all that kind of thing, and deleting dead people. All those things you have to do.
And that's what your committee helps you to do. That's why you have a committee, because your committee allows your tentacles, your reach to be further. They can help you to keep that up to date. They know that so-and-so's kid moved, had kids, divorced, changed her name, so they don't get mad at you. Why they keep sending this reunions? They don't know I divorced that man. So let's move on to step 4, which is to prepare a budget. You guys have a very cool, some line items. Let's see that for what your expenses might be, because it's going to cost. Like she said, they didn't want to come, do a reunion and lose money. So talk to us about this budget here, Suzanne or Doug.
Well, when preparing the budget, of course, you have expenses, and you also need to have some income coming in to cover those expenses. So the expenses that we have here are the expenses for the reunion, not for individual family members. So you may have to put deposits down on various activities that you'd like to do. The hotel, your family members are responsible for the cost of their room, but you may decide to hold a meeting or a banquet or whatever at the hotel. You're going to have to put down a deposit on that. Travel, you may put the family on a bus to go somewhere during the reunion. Food during the reunion, typically a reunion registration fee covers a meal or two, and then of course the family swag.
Yeah, that's the best part.
That's fun stuff. And then reunion funding. You may have a family member that's willing to donate some money to underwrite the cost of the reunion. Fundraisers, and family dues. Some families do ask the members to pay dues. It could be individually or by family chapters. And then you do have a registration fee. If you go to a conference, you're going to pay a registration fee.
Yeah.
And that covers, again, a couple of meals. It covers the cost of the activities, etc. Fundraising is really key. And you see a couple of illustrations of fundraisers on this slide. There's it's a little hard to tell, but the top one is a family quilt.
Oh, this is the most beautiful quilt.
Yes. And family asked each, the reunion planning committee asked each family member to submit a patch for the quilt. So it could be a photograph of the family, something that represented that family. And they made 3 or 4 quilts and they auctioned them off.
And what's this one down here at
This
the
one
bottom?
here is recipes.
Ah.
So you go to the family, submit your favorite recipe, submit a photo of yourself with the recipe, a little description about yourself. And then you have really a collector's item between those family quilts and those family cookbooks. So you do have to do some fundraising. That's how you cover the costs. Just again, depends on your family.
And yeah, you have to know your family. And within my family, I know that we tried a cookbook. We just didn't get a response, although there are lots of good cooks, but somehow getting people to write down the recipes.
It's hard.
To you, right? Then also you have those people who don't want to give you their secret. Yeah, I mean, if your potato salad is the best in the world, they're making a little something there you don't want people to know because you want to retain your title, you know. But what I found in our family is that there are people who love what they call 50-50 raffles.
Oh my gosh, they love those 50-50s.
Yeah, and you never do, you know, I never really participated in those things.
Oh
but
my
my
God.
family loves them. Also, you know,
home
in
with extra
Jersey,
money. That's all they know.
yeah, but in Jersey and Pennsylvania, where we have a large group of family, there are many people who love going to Atlantic City and going to the casinos. And those kinds of trips can be fundraisers between the reunions.
And there are additional times to get together. I love those, Doug. Everyone's saying your ideas are so fantastic. Denise Payne said that at their reunion, they had a Zoom reunion where they about the letters that were written 80 years before to that day. A series of one ancestor's letters. That's amazing, amazing, amazing.
Great.
Love that. I love that. Dora, what is we from the country, so we had potluck and a white elephant sale. What is a white elephant sale, Dora? I love that. Let's move on. Let's see, step are we at step? We did the budget, and now we are ready to. Okay, this is what Suzanne was talking about. Step 5: notify the family 18 months ahead. Suzanne, what?
People always say that.
Suzanne, this is for the reunion. I'm having this in July.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Everybody says that, Shamele. Okay. 18 months. And as I said, if this is their first one, we say 24 months. And we do have on our website a countdown timeline.
Yes.
It shows you what you should be doing from 24 months through to the reunion and after the reunion when you're going to have a debrief session. But really give the family notice, especially as Doug mentioned, if that's going to be their vacation for the year, let them know. You know, give them the location. Your survey that you send out may ask about dates, but give them the location. And then this way they know if I'm traveling in my family, it's really East Coast, West Coast. So if the reunion is going to be on the West Coast, I know it's going to cost more than on the East Coast.
Yes.
Get
pennies together.
Yes, gives me more time to get my budget together. So that's one of the reasons you want to give them that 18 months advance notice.
Fantastic. Our time is running really short. I'm going to go through the steps. Suzanne and Doug, thank you so much. Let's go through the steps for planning a family reunion. Form a planning committee. Step 2, determine a place, date, location, and name. Step 3, gather contact information. Step 4, prepare a budget. Step 5, notify the family 18 months ahead. Guys, thank you so much. We have to drop right this second. Doug and Suzanne, thank you.
Thank
Michael
you.
and Jim, see you next time. Bye.
All right.